Joining us now is freshman Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth, a Democrat from Maryland. She represents Maryland's 3rd Congressional District. Good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
I want to talk first about Elon Musk, considering your federal employee-heavy district and his Doge cuts when it comes to the federal government. I imagine you and he haven't agreed on much in your time in Congress, but do you agree with him this week when he described the One Big Beautiful Bill as a pork-filled, disgusting abomination?
Listen, I wouldn't use that language in a typical day, but here I completely agree with him. I have 44,000 federal employees in my district in Maryland and about 2 to 3 times that in contractors. And so we have been disproportionately and acutely impacted by Doge's sledgehammer, reckless sledgehammer. I mean, there's been no strategy whatsoever from what I can tell as to who should stay and who should go, what services should remain for taxpayers. But this week, I think he's hit the nail on the head. This was never about fiscal responsibility. This was never about fiscal conservatism. This was about tax breaks for billionaires at the expense of the most vulnerable in our communities in terms of folks on Medicaid and folks who, are hungry and receive SNAP benefits. So yeah, hell has frozen over. I agree with Elon Musk on this one.
What role can House Democrats play at this point in the process to influence this bill?
The role we're playing, we fought really hard through the night, through 2 consecutive nights right before the bill was passed in the wee hours of the morning, 7 a.m. I think the sun had just come up when we walked out. What we are doing is talking to our Republican colleagues. I was on a CODEL last week, and I spent the entire time trying to make sense of this, trying to understand my colleagues' perspectives in their districts and why they believe it's a big, beautiful bill when I believe it's going to, again, hurt the most vulnerable in my community. And, we're going to keep having those old-fashioned conversations. That's what used to happen here in Washington. It's frankly why I came to Washington, left my job at the state Senate in Maryland to come and try to bring some semblance of diplomacy back to this place to have those conversations. And that's what I've been doing really since I've got here. I came here about 153 very long days ago.
And I want to talk about your work in that time, but let me come back to strange bedfellows for a second. Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump, the president, saying on his Truth Social page that he agreed with her on the need for an elimination of the debt limit. Where do you stand on debt limit?
Oh, wow. I do not follow the president. I'm not even on Truth Social, so I didn't see that one this morning. The debt limit is a responsible check on all of us to have those meaningful debates every few years about how we spend taxpayer money. And so it's interesting that this president, a Republican, seems to want to just spend freely without regard for that debt limit. I happen to disagree with that. I come from, before I came to Congress, I mentioned I was in the state Senate. I had to balance the budget every year. We don't have to do that here, but the way that we handle things of just writing blank checks, and traditionally, as you know, it's been Republican presidents who increase our debt as opposed to Democratic presidents. So I'm going to disagree with my colleague in the Senate and the president on this one.
Should we have to balance the budget here on Capitol Hill every year?
It would be an interesting conversation. It would be very, very difficult to do, but I think it would ground some of our policies more in reality.
Let me come back to that 150 some days or so. We started talking about Doge cuts. What has actually the impact been in your district? How many federal employees are in your district? How many lost their jobs over the past 5 months or so?
So 44,000 direct federal employees, and then again about 2 to 3 times that in contractors, and thousands of federal employees. I've done 13 town halls in my first almost 6 months in Congress, and I can't even go to the grocery store, let alone a town hall, without somebody coming up to me begging me to help get their job back. We're talking about, scientists at NOAA. We're talking about folks who make sure our food is safe at FDA. We're talking about folks at Social Security. U.S. Naval Academy is in my district. All of these people have been impacted. And again, Elon Musk and the president cannot argue to me how they made these decisions. It seemed to be arbitrary. It seemed to be vitriolic. Without regard for things like national security. I have the outskirts of Fort Meade where NSA and Cybercom live. So all of those folks responsible for safety and security of this nation, a lot of them were axed, and a lot of them were fired in such a way that really gives me pause in terms of, are we truly respecting people who have some of the hardest jobs in our country? So disproportionately impacted in my district.
Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth is with us until the bottom of the hour at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Here to take your phone calls. It's 202-748-8000 for Democrats, Republicans 202-748-8001, and Independents 202-748-8002. As folks are calling in, you mentioned the U.S. Naval Academy. What should viewers know about the Naval Academy and book bans?
Well, I also have the privilege of serving on the Board of Visitors for the Naval Academy, and it's literally my backyard at home. I thoroughly disagreed with that book ban. Now, since then, and that, to be clear, I want folks at home to know, this came from the very top, from Secretary Pete Hegseth. And the fact that our Secretary of Defense is personally spending time, energy, and resources thinking about what midshipmen can or cannot read, when they have banned Maya Angelou, I Know by the Caged Bird Sings, but kept Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, is ridiculous to me. Now, thankfully, cooler heads have prevailed, and most of those books are now back in the library. And again, we're training and teaching the future officers and leaders of our military. We should be able to trust them to read the books that they feel they should read and prepare for that leadership role.